This is fake. This is fake. Hey, happy 2020. I'm live. Yeah, so, it's been holidays and here we are in the new year. We'll get this going. So anyway, I'm here. It's 2020. We're back. People keep talking about this new decade, and it took me a while to think, oh yeah, it's the new year. It's a new decade. And funnily enough, if you're old enough to remember, there was a time when we were children where we would look ahead to the year 2000 and think, oh my gosh, I'm going to be so old at the turn of the century. And now it's 20 years later and it's like, whoa. So time does fly, as they always say about raising children. The days are long, but the years are short. Sometimes that's how life is. And I'm just like, I'm not ready for that. Happy new creative year. Yeah. I'm not going to force you to do anything, because how many of you are getting bombarded by every newsletter, every course, every webinar, how to slaughter the new year and new year, new you, and blah, 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 and everything on television and everything. I mean, my email box is just filled with people selling me a course. And I'm thinking, if I took everything here, I wouldn't have time to breathe if I took all the courses that have been offered to me for January to start my new year off right. I always feel like wherever you start is where you start. Like we have assigned January 1st, obviously, for when we're supposed to, okay, we're going to buckle down. This is the thing we're going to do. And then, but you could do that on March 1st or March 23rd. My younger sister, Sarah, reminded me, I don't remember this, but I like it when people remind you when you said something profound. But she said, remember when you said, oh, we changed from the season of joy and love right into self-loathing season, where January comes along and we're like, oh my gosh, I'm so fat and my house is so disorganized. And, we have just lived in this bubble of love and celebration to straight into self-loathing. And I'm not doing that anymore. I kicked that to the curb. Yeah, but we are going to talk about the new year because, hey, it's the new year. But first, I wanted to mention that I'm going to be in Atlanta next week. So A, there will not be a Coffee with Ronnie because I'll be in Atlanta. And B, if you're going to be there, I feel like I'm pretty much going on one big, long coffee date, interspersed with trend shopping and having important conversations. But I would love to meet up for real with some people. If there's a few of you around, maybe we can set a little time aside and meet as a little group. I know super short notice, but that would be awesome. That would be awesome. And so that's what I'm doing. And also, I have just reopened the Cup of Clarity program, which is on my website at ronniewalter.com, and just go to the coaching button and you can sign up for the Cup of Clarity, which, not to make a big sales pitch, but I did this in October. I gotta say, it's kind of effective for people. There was a lot of clarity around this process that is part of the program, if you will, and then the 30-minute call that we put together has been really effective. And so I just want you to know that if you go to the website, that is available to you if you want to do something like that to kick off your year right. That would be cool. So lots of people have been talking about the word of the year. And I don't know when the word of the year first started. I probably noticed it maybe 5 or 6 years ago, but it seems to have taken hold culturally. I don't know if it's beyond our creative world, because frankly, I'm not paying that much attention beyond our creative world. And so I was, if you saw my Instagram post, I was auditioning words of the year, and nothing was really, it was kind of like, well, all of those, but nothing was like, this is the word. And I know, Jen, you were dancing around that process as well, and I'm sure several others. And I don't want to put big pressure on anybody to have a word of the year. And I did a cartoon several years ago where I was thinking of all of these, you know, I drew a cartoon of myself of how I was trying to work my way through all these words of the year. And then I realized it should actually be focus. I think the cat told me that in the cartoon, that the word might be focus. But anyway, so I was working in my little journal, and I had all these words that were being auditioned for my word of the year. And here's the word that I chose: joy. And here's why I chose that. And that just came to me this morning, where I like to look at situations or my life at any point on the map and just say, I think I want a little more of that and a little less than that. A little more time, a little less busy, a little more meaningful conversations and relationships, a little less drama. And when you start looking at it as sort of a binary situation, don't want that, want that. Sometimes it's super clear. And I realized that really what I wanted was a little more joy, whether I was putting the joy out to the world or bringing it into my life. It needed to have a modicum of joy attached to it, and not joy like frantic, like, oh my gosh, this is so incredible, because you can't live at that place. But I want to feel like what I'm bringing to the world, the projects that I'm working on, I just want that to have a little bit of joy surrounding it. And so that is my word. And that was like the click of the keystone in the arch for me. It was like joy. That's what I want. Simple, simple. It's only 3 letters, and there are 3 cute letters. So that's where I am. Sally, there is no late. There is no late here at Coffee with Ronnie. We show up when we show up. It's kind of like when we're all hanging out at the coffee shop. Some people are like, I couldn't find a parking space. It's okay. It's okay. Always welcome. Because I remember I found the note cards, because I was doing a little bit of organization over the holidays, and I found the note card from my first Coffee with Ronnie. And I had written on that note card, I want Coffee with Ronnie. I don't know if I'd even named it at that point, but that wasn't hard. To feel like we were, because we can't all get together at Starbucks or our local coffee shop and sit down and talk. That is how I want this to feel. So that has always been my intention, that we feel that way. So Sally, let's just pretend you couldn't get a parking spot, but now you do. It's real close to the door, so everything's fine. So I'd love to know if you guys have done a word of the year, or you have chosen not to, and choosing not to is fine. It's fine. It's all fine. So Norma, yay, you made it too. She just found her parking space right next to Sally's. So that's cool. My word of the year is joy. But we do have a year ahead of us. This is sort of the launch of things. I mean, as you know, I don't like things to be super wide open-ended. Like, that's too much to plan. It's kind of like, oh, I want this giant, I want to be a billionaire. It's like, well, how long is that going to take, and what's that going to mean, and what does that look like? And that's just too big. And that's sometimes how I feel about a year. Now, it's 12 months. A lot can happen in 12 months, a lot. And so I like to break things down. Now, I like to have an arc of my year, like, get an idea of what's happening in this year. But I do like to do my sort of more detailed planning in quarters. And here's why I like to put this into sort of these 12-week chunks. Norma, if I had to pick a phrase of the year, is let it go, which means several things to me. All good. I know. And how can we not break into song when your theme is let it go? We're all just going to be singing show tunes now, which is a problem for me. Yes. So yeah, let it go. I love that, because there's a lot of things you just go, I got to let go of that. Whether it's the idea of what you think of yourself, or what you think you're supposed to be, or let go some of the impossible dreams that are like, yeah, I don't really want that anymore. It looked good on paper, but I don't want that anymore. So let it go is a really good one. I like that. Here's my thesis on the quarters, is that it's 12 weeks. Now, if you kind of plug in, you look at the arc of your year, like, one of the things I know for sure is I intentionally kind of lopped off my December, I think on about, I don't know what day, like the 13th or something, was my last coaching appointment. And I intentionally decided that I wasn't going to do any businessy business for the rest of the year. And that was wonderful. Now, we do not have children. And so people don't really care whether we come to Christmas or not. And so there's not a lot around our Christmas as far as, oh, we have to entertain a bunch of people and do all that. No one expects much from us, which is kind of a nice place to be. So I knew that I was going to have this open-ended time, and it was really wonderful for me. And that is something that I've realized that I really want. That at the end of the year, I want this time to work at a pace that feels good for me, work at a pace that it isn't like Uber planning. It isn't just this, I'm always thinking. And it really re-engaged me in some of my art practice for the pure love of doing art, which I haven't done for a while. So I already know that in 2020, December 2020, I'm going to do that again. I'm going to do that again, which means that as I look at this arc of 2020, I go, well, I know that most of December I'm cutting off. So it's really an 11-month year in Ronnie's world right now. I don't know what that's going to look like. I don't know. I don't know what opportunities are going to come to me that all of a sudden I'm going to need to pay attention during those weeks. But right now, that is my intention. But when you look at like a 3-month chunk, you kind of know the parameters of that. You know, if you have other obligations, you know, you always take a vacation in July, whatever, but you can look at these 12 weeks and sort of plan things forward based on your overarching goals. And what happens is, if things go off the rail, they're only going off the rail for 3 months. You can regroup and know that you're only doing this for 3 months, and then you'll sort of regroup and so bring it back to where you want it to shift toward. It also gives you opportunities to change your mind, because if you go, 2020 is my year to blah, and then, you know, you get to April and you're like, yeah, that's not interesting to me, or it's not working, or it's just not a thing, you don't feel like you've ruined your whole year. You're only in these chunks of time. So I would suggest looking at that quarterly idea of just saying, let me just look at this right now and do what I can do. But when you look at, like, you start with the year briefly, and then you bring it down to these 3 months. When you know kind of what you want for the 3 months, that's when you can start doing a more detailed plan of what the day-to-day is going to look like, how many weeks it's going to take to do something, what your day-to-day is going to look like, so that you can say, well, I know I always have Thursdays open to do this, or this is how I'm going to bring in my art practice, things like that. So that's why I like a 3-month thing. Now, I have looked at these, each of the quarters, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and really looked at where my head should be during those times. Like second quarter, my next book will be out, so I know there will be activity around promoting that book. And also, that's when I really I'm working on another book that's going to require a little more like actual writing and thought. And so I'm looking at April, May, June as that time of working on that. So I already kind of know that framework, but I know there's going to be projects that are going to come in that may derail that a little bit, but not a lot. But I already know these chunks of things that I'm going to do. Breathe. I know, Jen. That's a good one. That's a good one. It's yeah, live fully. Mine is clarity. Oh, cool, Kelly. Yay. Yay, yay. Okay, so think about that. Think about that. Now, the other thing I want to talk about today, because this is going to be a thing, if there's going to be any theme in 2020 for Coffee with Ronnie, this is where I'm going to introduce this. And that is, I know lots of you journal in some way, and I have always been a reluctant journaler. I just have never, I don't know why. I don't know why I haven't been a person that consistently journals. But I started about, I think I've been consistently every day journaling for about the last 7 months, which is kind of a big deal for me. it started with, I know every person except me has read The Artist's Way. Of course, The Artist's Way. It has just hit its 25th anniversary, and I just read it in the last 8 months. But I haven't read the whole thing because you know how I read. But her concept is that you write this morning pages. It's sort of a meditation. You do these 3 pages every morning, and it kind of blasts your day forward because you have downloaded all this stuff out of your brain. Love this idea. Cannot do 3 pages. Cannot do 3 pages. But I do 1 page every single day. And it's funny because it takes my coffee maker, turn on my coffee, and it's about 7 minutes till my coffee's done. And that's about 3/4 of a page. So I turn off the coffee, I finish my page, go get a cup of coffee. So it's these habits and putting things together that has helped me to stay engaged in that process. But I'm just going to tell you what journaling has done for me, just in that really simple, sometimes I'm sort of writing a letter to myself, writing a letter to the world. Sometimes it's just a download of my thoughts. But it has really, it's become a way to start my day that I feel like the overwhelming thoughts and the overthinking type thoughts that I have been carrying around with me kind of get put on the page. They get put on the page, and I'm not really feeling like I have nowhere to put those because I already put them on the page. And so that is just like, what? I guess this is what everyone has been telling me all these years. I just didn't believe it. Well, it's just like, what's her name? The Wizard of Oz. I couldn't believe it. I had to learn it for myself. But it's true. It's true. But anyway, I would encourage you, if you don't have a journaling practice, to start a journaling practice. The other thing I have started doing, again, later than everybody else, is doing an art journal idea. It's really just, this is my sketchbook. It's more of a journal. I'm sort of capturing thoughts, quotes that I hear along the way, either out of my brain or something else that I've heard. But it's a way to chronicle my day, my year, my life. Because I'm sure my nieces and nephews will be fascinated by that. But I would encourage you to think about journaling as a way to kind of start your day with a nice clean slate. I mean, once you put it down, I don't go back to that information. It's not like I'm recording it for planning purposes, but I will say, y'all know my love for index cards. I always have one in arm's reach. So if I am in the process of the journaling meditation, if you will, if I do have a thought where I'm like, oh, I have to call the dentist, I write that on the index card and go right to the page. I'm not trying to capture that information in the journal because then it's lost in all that stuff. So I have found it to be very effective for me to, it's kind of a self-soothing activity for me, that I'm just starting my day and I'm just feeling so much more calm during the day for having done that. I did the morning pages religiously for a while, several years ago, then quit. It really is effective. Need to get back to it. Yeah, and I think that you should give yourself the permission that, I do think 3 pages is a lot. And I know her idea is that you just keep writing, whether you can, if you have anything brilliant to say, you don't self-edit. And I don't do a lot of self-editing. I laugh sometimes, I crack myself up. But, and her idea is that it takes that long to get your brain to get fully dumped. The dump truck of your brain takes that long to do that. I don't know. Do whatever makes it right for you, but that I only do a page because I can't. I just can't. So what I'm planning to do for this year for Coffee with Ronnie is that I would like to, at the end of every Coffee with Ronnie, give you a journaling prompt, because it isn't always a natural state for us to just go, I'm not that interesting, blah, blah, I'm not going to write. But I'd like to give you a prompt. And this is today's prompt as our first Coffee with Ronnie for the year, for the decade. The decade, I don't care. The prompt this week is to ask yourself, what is the story you want to tell next year at this time? What is it you want to say back to say, this is the kind of year I had? Project out. Write as if it's a year from now. What do you want to have happen? So if it's easier to do that, sometimes it's easier to put things in the form of a letter, or you could look at it as, I'm calling Ronnie and I'm going to call Ronnie and tell her how cool my year was. Write it that way, like, I'm calling Ronnie. Guess what I did this year? And I want you to write based on that. You don't have to report back to me. You have to send it to me, anything like that. It's just, if it's easier to say, I'm going to call Ronnie and tell her what happened. That's my prompt for this week, to look at it and say, what is the story you want to be able to tell at this time next year? Whether sitting around having coffee with your friends, sitting by the Christmas tree with your husband, with your family, and just say, oh, I just had a really cool year. Let me tell you about it. Or if someone asked you, how was your year? You can go, you know, this is what happened, but we're going to project that into the future. So that is my prompt for this week. Rachel says, happy homework. I love prompts. Oh, this is awesome, Ronnie. Cool. I'm glad, Rachel. Cool. All right. Awesome. I want to say I kept my sanity. Yes. Wouldn't that be good? But you might want to go into a little more detail than that. But I did this the other day in anticipation, because I was like, what is that? What is, if I called my sister or my cousin or my friend and said, let me tell you about my year? And they'd be like, okay, only if I can tell you about mine. Sure, but I'm going first. But think about that. What is the story you want to tell? What is the feeling you want to be having at this time next year? So with that, I am going to close it out. If you have any questions, you can pop them in. Oh, I just saw LaDonica says her word is expansiveness. That's really good. I like that too. I like that too. That's got a lot. Flourish. Good, good. Erica, I like that. Erica with a K. Flourish. Yeah, you know, sometimes it feels, and I think I've used words similar to that over the years, where it's like, I know everything I need to do. Now I just need to enhance that. I need to embellish. I need to flourish from where I am now. And I think that's a wonderful one, especially when you have been working really hard on figuring out how you're cracking this particular nut, whatever that nut is to you. So that's a great word. That's a good one. And I know you'll do the lettering. Super cool. Okay, guys, I think you're adorable. I'd like you to stay caffeinated if that's your thing. But you know it's mine. And we'll talk. We'll talk soon. And take care, everyone. If I see you in Atlanta, that will be extra bonus. So take care, everyone. Bye.